All right, everyone. Well, we inwardly debated this for both the rear PDC and the rear view camera, as well as the front PDC, whether or not it'd be better or worse to jack the car up and get it on jack stands in order to just be at a more usable, workable height. I think we're going to go ahead and do it. We're going to get the car up on all four corners. Since this car is lowered, we do have to jack it up at the jack point, get a racing ramp under there, do the same thing on the other side, move out, jack it up from middle of the car, and then set it down on the jack stands. In the rear, we'll just be able to go behind the rear bumper and jack on the rear differential, and then be able to get the two jack stands in the back. But we'll go ahead and do the front here just to get things going. We're going to have to open up the garage door here and be able to get the floor jack around to the front of the car. So with that said, I'll probably do a little bit of a time lapse here, and then we'll get situated. So, all right. And since we are jacking up the car, safety first, we're just going to put the car in gear and also put two pieces of wood block behind a couple of the wheels, just in case. We do have the parking brake on, but that's no guarantee. Not as good as a couple small logs, just to prevent the car from really rolling back. So, since we don't have any professional chocks, we'll just use these nice pieces of firewood. They're pretty dry, so as said, this is a safety first, so that should prevent the car from rolling back. And the car's in gear. We have a rear-wheel drive car. We'll look at it from the front before you let it down. Pretty good. We'll just gently lower it down. See how we did. Yep. Nice and on the ramp. And we'll go ahead and do the other side, which you can't really see. Not a lot of room here, so we're jacking 1/4 inch at a time. And let it down gently. right. All right, to start, since we're going to be doing quite a bit of electrical work, we're going to go ahead and open up the trunk. We're just going to put this in here. We're going to have the rear seats open, so this really shouldn't matter, but we're going to go ahead and disconnect our battery, which in our case is 10 mil on the negative terminal. Place that off to the side, and then we'll just put a microfiber cloth over the battery as well, just so that it doesn't accidentally reconnect. This off. All right, put that off to the side. As mentioned, we're just gonna cover that with a cloth that way, because we are gonna be doing some work in there. We just don't want anything to accidentally touch it or bump it, but just got the corner of the battery covered off. Got our battery tray up here, and what we're going to do next, I think, is actually do the uninstallation of the bumper, which is going to require taking out the taillights. So with that, there are a bunch of small screws and bolts underneath. There's some in the wheel well, down the lining of the wheel arch, across the bottom, and same thing on the other side. There may also be 2 bolts right here, so we will have to remove our drip tray trim. And then we're actually going to take away the taillights themselves so we don't scratch or damage them, and then we'll tape off the car. So with that, I think we've got a little bit of a game plan. And because we're also doing the rear view camera, we're going to have to take out this whole trunk trim, the sides, as well as we're going to start to get into, this side of the carpet as well. We've got this just in case. Again, we have the seats down because we sort of have to for this, and then should be able to go from there. Millimeter trim. Oddly, on our car, there are a couple what appear to be T20s. Pretty tiny.
Those will have to come off. There's 3 of them. Under. All right, next we're going to go ahead and get these drip trays out. I think we just need a little trim removal tool in order to sort of pop those grommets out. They seem a bit loose, but we'll know here in a second. Was going to use a flathead screwdriver, but just don't like the idea of plastic on plastic. Get one of those out. Get the other side out as well. Perfect. Then we can just remove our drip tray. There's our T. These just sort of pull out, and then there's just 2 little tabs on the bottom. These are LCIs. I think that's another T20 here. I just don't think I was expecting that. Since we only did these taillights like a year ago, there's not that much buildup and accumulation. We did clean them out pretty good on the inside, but since they are F80 LCI LED taillights, I think we're going to remove them to make sure that they don't get damaged. We're going to find a nice safe spot for them. We get all of our trim bolts, drip tray out. Get these into the bin. Next container, since we're in the trunk, these are 10 mils. And then they just sit on a little rubber grommet back there. Be careful here. Forgot these were just tops. We'd probably find it. Well, it might be a little ridiculous, but we did find a soft bag. We put just a sheet in here, really just to protect the parts. I just don't really want these taillights, getting scratched or anything in here. So we're just going to go ahead and gently remove them. As previously seen, they are held in just by a couple grommets on the side. Once you sort of get past the... There you are. Just make sure you push out the wiring and just disconnect it gently. Be careful not to drop your headlight. Gently rocking the receptacle back and forth. There we go. We got our first tail light out. Just go ahead and get that in this little makeshift bag. Get one here on the other side. It's really just so we don't scratch the glass or anything, and that's all we're really doing this for. Here we are. That one is out as well. Let's gently get this wire out, pushing down on the tab and back, and just giving it a little bit of a wiggle. Here we are, receptacle out, headlight out, into the baby bag, and we'll just close that up and put it off somewhere safe. And really, that's just to be able to get to these extra couple tabs in order to sort of push down and facilitate the bumper's removal. Plus, we're going to tape off the top here when we go to do our reinstall and uninstallation. So with that, let's go ahead and get some painter's tape on here, and then that way we won't scratch up. All right, let's just go ahead and get a little painter's tape on here. Might be a little easier with our hands out of the gloves, so. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's pretty good. That way we won't ram the bumper into it when we're going to do the install. All right, and we're on the other side now. We'll just go ahead and get this side taped up as well. Not as good on this side. That's what it is. This last little bit over here. Whoops. Good enough. All right, I'll protect our upper paint. And I do think we are ready for bumper removal. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and remove the bumper. As you can see, we've set up some sheets just down on the ground so we don't scratch anything up, even though we are exchanging the bumper. I think this one is still in excellent condition and something that we can certainly resell along with the side skirts and the front bumper when we go to do that. In order to do this, though, we're going to gently push out 2 tabs in each of the taillight lens housing, and then we should just be able to sort of pull away. Bottom's all unsecured, so there's just a couple locking tabs every 4 or 5 inches up here. So with that, we're gently just going to push down on these, get them out of their respective housing. Might actually put our gloves back on since we're going to be pushing on some stuff, and fingers are already sore. Just gently sort of separate those. Perfect, those are out. We can do the same thing here on the driver's side. Just gently pull those away, pushing down. Okay. Go, you can hear the bumper sort of start to come away there. All right, and now we can carefully go around and do some gentle prying. So once we do that, we can gently go around. I'm just going to leave this sitting up here. Imagine I'm doing the same thing on the other side here. We're just going to gently start on the outside and work our way in. Oh, much easier over here. All right, and then we're going to grab the center here. And we do have our sheets down below. Perfect, and we're just going to gently put it down for now. We do have some painter stands set up. Let's go ahead and get those situated. And that way we can carry the bumper over somewhere safe. Now that we have the bumper on the ground, so we don't have any wiring in this bumper because it is an absolute base model 3 Series prior to all the work that we're doing, but there's a little dirt and debris in the bumper, so we're just gonna sneak this by. It is quite the odd piece. Perfect, as we bump into the camera. All right, and now that we've got it safely over on our painter's stand and out of the way. Awesome. All right, it's pretty filthy dirty in here. Wow, that's pretty surprising. We will probably end up cleaning a little bit of this since it is exposed for the first time, but we still need to wire in our PDC and our rear view camera. I think we're going to have to get back this in order to pass the loom through, so we're eventually going to have to take that off, but might actually start in the trunk, because if we have to run wires together, we're going to start up there, so as we have all of our looms and stuff back in here, and we need to go up into the car further for the trim, meaning we're going to continue on the disassembly path with the trunk lid here. All right, to start with the trunk lid removal, we're going to go ahead and get these plastic arms. You just sort of push out on the arm and then gently snap it out, and then these sort of slide down from the roof. There's a little tab there. That way they just sort of, oh, there's 2 of these, I forgot about that. Snap them both and it should gently come away. That's where we're at. Just, and then there are a couple of these sort of grommets. You sort of just pull forward on them, and then the back comes off. And once these are most of the way out, they just sort of down. You can just sort of gently pull them out, and then pull their respective little pins out. There we go. Here we go. All right, get that little handle off, and now we can take off our last 2 screws. Should have gotten a slightly thinner trim tool. We had gently. Ah, there we go. All right, we are going after the trunk handle, which is in quite the place up here. Probably can't see it because you're seeing the inside of the trunk. We got a couple nice BMW signatures. I don't remember ever writing IT or TA, but thanks guys for the at the assembly plant. But our handle's up here, and we're gonna go ahead and attempt to get that all out. There is some comfort access, not comfort access, but trunk release wiring that we are gonna want to get out. I don't think we have to take the license plate off, but I think we might, just to keep it simple. So why don't I get that down here a little bit, and then we'll go from there. Since our hood, our trunk can't shut, can sort of put it down, but if you can see, we're going to get this handle out, and it is held by some plastic retaining clips on the inside. And as mentioned, there is one cord that we have to get off, but if you can see, it's all the way up in here in order to do that. So there's no access on this side, so it's all being done on this side. And I can see the electrical connector that is our trunk lid. And then if we look at our new unit, new to us unit, brand new BMW part, just to see what we're after, we can see that this will be oriented like that, just as is, but if we look on the backhand side, there's a couple tabs holding this in, and so we're going to have to reach in, sort of push against those so that our unit can come out. But as mentioned, there is a little electric connector here. Looks like it is held in by a small tab, so we might have to give it a little bit of force in order to get that out, but keep that nice and safe. We do have to put the camera in the unit before we put it up there too, so let's see if we can't go ahead and disconnect the wire, and then see if we can get it out. There we go. Nice. I think we might want and that's our unit out. Should have done that from the start, getting those first couple off, but you can see the tabs. There were two on the side where our empty camera hole is, and then, you know, two on the bottom here. So I think this is going to be a direct plug and play. Looks like a different module now, though. But it's built in. I mean, the old one, I mean, the housings are different. You know, the connector is more sort of rudimentary. Feels hardier. I mean, it's a genuine BMW part, so they've obviously changed it, but I do think we need to put our camera in at this point. It just kind of snaps into these housings, and then we can get the camera up and into the hole, which, you know, oddly enough, they left the cutout. I mean, it just, you know, for a car that cost 2014 almost $60,000, you know, it seems weird to just leave out a key component of technology. And just to be sure, this goes up here like this, and then our camera would face down and out towards us. We could just get our camera housing in there. perfect. Comfort access. And that just goes in like that. But I'm just going to leave it out for a second, just to make sure that we don't have to do any of our sort of wiring. We might want to do a little bit of our wiring and clean up, but nice OEM camera. All right, let's put that there. We're going to put our old trunk piece back in the bag. Someone might need a non-camera trunk lid at some point. All right, to access the area where we're going to run our PDC wiring through, we just need to take off this plastic trim piece. In this case, it's held on by a couple 10mm bolts, one here, one here. Let's go ahead and just get those disconnected. All right, and then we also need to take off these T20s. And then this should just gently slide out, and we'll put that somewhere safe. All right, and you can see that this is the location that they might want you to drill somewhere in here. I think we're going to try and sneak it by and inside the little wiring here. I've read a couple forum posts that basically say that, you know, getting this little stopper in and out is quite the bear. And then second to that, not necessarily sure I want to drill into the car just yet if we don't necessarily have to. So I think what we're going to try and do is just sneak the wiring loom through by just cutting a small hole in the plastic here, and then using a little bit of black sealant in order to close it up. So with that, we're just going to arrange our cable set and just see sort of what it looks like, and then go from there. All right, so we're inside the battery compartment. We've had a lot of inner dialogue with ourselves, and rather than cut through the rubber grommet, we're actually going to drill through what appears to be the molding hole. It's actually the thinnest part of the entire rubber gasket, and I'm able to take a pick tool and sort of push through. It's pretty thin there. I mean, I don't love trying to drill near the battery or some of the wiring harness, but I feel like, you know, I'm able to push through the pick tool. So what I think we're going to do is just take a very small drill. I think in this case, maybe start with an 1/8 inch bit, and then try to go through, see what that looks like, and then we'll use some black sealant, some silicone sealant on the back end to sort of seal the rubber gasket so that no water can get in. I think it'll create a pretty good seal, and this will prevent us from really, you know, drilling into the car, which I don't necessarily want to do, but also being able to get this loom through, and so we can sort of get our connection into the REM appropriately. But I think it's the best sort of way through. The Rubber grommet actually comes in and out pretty easily. I'm not necessarily sure what other people were finding on the forums, but I think given this sort of mold indentation, we're going to try and give it a go. And just before we drill through, I'll show you, we can just gently pass our pick tool through here. You'll start to see the tip, but it's really, not that thick. Sort of easy enough to... So you can see the pick tool comes through pretty easily. I could step up and try a bigger pick just to see if we can't sort of make our own hole, but I think when I pull this out, the rubber does a good job of sort of resealing itself. I mean, there's a little mark where we sort of came through, but otherwise I think we're going to have to make a bigger hole than just passing a pick tool back and forth. All right, well, no time like the present. I think we've measured, made sure that we're not near any of our wires. We'll just go ahead and do pretty slow. All right, we can see our little hole. I think we can go back through this way as well. And we avoided all the other wiring, so I think we did a pretty good job there, all things considered. I think we're a little small. It's going to be a little tight, but I definitely think we're in the right spot. We might try and pass through our loom just as a test fit. I don't want to pass the really small connectors through, just because if you take a look at them, they're pretty flimsy. And then our loom itself is about 5 mil, sort of in the middle. And just doing a small visual comparison, I think we're pretty close to its maximum width, so might try to just give it a little bit more. The rubber seems to be sort of closing in just a little bit, so maybe we'll step up the drill bit just one more size just to give ourselves a little bit more room. All right, and since we're trying to feed this wiring harness through without doing any damage to the connectors, I've rigged up sort of a pretty rudimentary device, which is a zip tie, sort of plasti wrapped, just to give the cables a little strength without damaging them, and I'm only doing sort of half at a time. You can see that we're getting into a little bit of resistance there, and that's only with half of them. I got about half of them in, and what we don't really want to do is pull them back through, so let's go ahead and get our zip tie back out, give ourselves a little more room in there, and then we'll go back and do the second half here. Again, we just wanted to give it a little bit of strength as we passed it through. Nothing crazy. I think we're gonna have a good seal here, just because of how tight some of this is, but just wanted to give myself a fighting chance that these brackets didn't break as we sort of passed them through. Just double check on the other side. Yep, looks like we got everything through undamaged, which is good. Just take off our little slide mechanism. Make sure that we get our zip tie out, but we don't pull our wiring loom out. And should be able to just get the plastic. I don't think this is the professional way of doing it, but this is what we've got. All right, we are in. I think all of our little pins made it. Perfect. All right, and we can get a little bit of that loom in here. I mean, as you can tell, I mean, given the size hole that we drilled, I mean, there's really not much room for, anything to get in, but we will use a little bit of black sealant once we're done in order to make sure that, no water sort of gets in there, just as an extra precaution. Since we are going to be going into the REM, we just need it to sort of reach up there, not much farther. And then we can always pull it back out to make sure that we have the appropriate length along the bumper before we fully seal it in. So fairly easy to access this part of the car, but I think that'll just be the safe bet for now. But we've got our loom through. We didn't damage any of the wires on here. I think we're good to go. And just to sort of give you an idea of what it looks like in here, we use that small hole, just got our wiring through, and none of the pins were damaged or bent as we pushed them through because we had our fancy zip tie and plasti wrap apparatus in order to get them through. But next what we're actually going to do is remove all of the REM modules and then disconnect the REM, since we are swapping over to a new unit, because when you look inside this unit over here, let's see if you can just disconnect this. But as you can see, we just don't have the PDC pins in this REM module, so we're just going to go ahead and replace it, and then we'll have to code it to the car. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and get all these removed. So just depress the little retention clip, pull the bar up, and gently slide it away. Similarly for the middle, gently slide it away, out of the way, and our last one. Perfect. Gently pull that all away. And then for the positive battery terminal, what you're going to do is just take a little trim tool. I'm just using a sort of small flat. Just pull out the red tab here just ever so slightly. And once that's out, there's just a little retaining clip on the top. Sort of push that down, and then everything gently slides out. Once you've got that disconnected, there's just one 10mm bolt holding on the unit, so we'll just go ahead and get that 10mm off. There was a note just to not let this drop down into the battery tray, so just be careful, that way you're not fishing down there with a magnet. But with that, it's just held in with two small plastic clips on the side, and then our REM gently slides out. And just for visual comparisons, the REM on the top is the new one with this sort of green paint. And you can see all the pins in that top left. Those are all the pins for the PDC. The pinout for everything else looks pretty similar, so not exactly sure what other options this new to us car had on its REM, but they are otherwise identical from a pinout perspective. So we'll go ahead and get our new one installed, but just wanted to give you that visual comparison if you're ever looking for, does your REM have the appropriate pinout or not? That's how you'll know. All right, and now that we have our new REM, we're just going to gently slide it into place. Make sure that it's up against our retaining bolt. Have seen them broken before, but why can't we get this simple 10mm sort of bolt back in? think we got it. Yep. All right, with that, we can get at our ratchet now that we started it. Nothing crazy as we're getting some plastic. Just hand tight is fine. What we're going to do next is we're just going to get some of these out of our way. We're just going to plug them back in because honestly, we're going to have to do it anyway. And this way we don't forget to plug anything back into the car. And we can work on our unit that we want, which is this far one. So we'll just get these other ones sort of in place themselves, and then this is one we're going to be working on, so we're going to need to leave that out, and we're going to be working on that brown side there. So let's go ahead and get out our wiring diagram, make sure we get all these into their correct placements. Likely they're all at the top here because that's where the pinout is, so let's go ahead and get those all pinned up. All right, to get started, we just separated our wires out for how they're going to get pinned. So for pin 37, we're going to have our brown black wire. For pin 38, we're going to have our yellow and black wire. For pin 39, we're going to have our yellow and brown wire. So those are sort of one side and one set. Then for pin 49, we're going to have our green and black wire. For pin 50, we're going to have a yellow-purple wire. It's a very light purple. It might even look a little white to some. And then we also have on pin 51 our yellow and green wire. In order to get these installed, we're going to have to remove the connectors. In order to do so, there's sort of two small sort of clips on the side, and you can just sort of gently open them with a pry tool. And then I can't remember if one or both slide out at the same time, but we're only looking for the brown side, so it might be that both ultimately come out, but it could be that just one. I think that blue one's past it. There we go. I don't know why it was that hard. Seemed unnecessarily hard. So we got 37, 38, 39 right there. And then we're also looking for 49, 50, and 51. So in here as well. So we'll flip that back out. Okay. And I think that we don't have to do any further. So we should just be able to push them into their respective homes. So 37 is brown and black. And these, I believe the boxes face out so they can clip in, and if you need to depin them, you can. There's a little sort of tab that they clip into, and if you need to depin them, you can just depress that and pull them back out. So 37 is, sorry guys if I'm in your view, but it's sort of this second hole from the top. 37, okay. That was our brown black. 38 is our yellow black. Just the one next to it. Perfect, you can hear the clip. And 39, it's going to be yellow-brown. It's this guy. here. Here we go. It's into 39. Okay. And then now we can sort of flip it over. It's a little bit harder to see here. But these will come together like this again, so we will take our green and black into 49, which is green and black, 49 clip. We'll take yellow and purple into 50. Just doesn't exactly want to go in for some reason. Don't like that. Oh, there we go. That is into pin 50, and then our yellow and green wire into 51. Which is that one. All right, so let's just double check our work. We got black and brown into 37, yellow and black into 38, yellow brown into 39, great. And then on the other side we've got 49 is black and green, 50 is yellow purple, and green and yellow is 51. Okay, and those go back together like this, and then our little PDC can follow that because when we flip it back up, that's how it's oriented. And we can go ahead and get the case back on this. Okay. Got that oriented right. It says 28 at the top there, and 43, that's correct. And then we've got one. Perfect. So we can go ahead and get those in, push down, clipped in. Perfect. We can go ahead and push our loom back in as long as we get past our other retrofit. All right, we can lock that into place. So pretty decent amount of work to get those little pins in, but I think we got it right. We got our new REM control module, got a little bit of slack in here, so we're not pulling on these too hard. You know, most of these are pretty tight anyway. You can see our other retrofit that we did for the LED taillights. Since we didn't have them in our car originally, positives in, these look secure. So with that, looks like our REM is installed in the back with the appropriate wiring. Next we'll go to the bumper. All right, so in order to proceed, we had the wiring loom installed through the side of the car. We're gonna swap out our original non-M Sport retainer. This one happens to have quite a bit of electronics. I think there's some lighting, comfort access, and some sensors on here. I've seen other videos where there aren't as many, but we have sort of this rod, this connecting sensor. We've got a sensor unit here. We have some various wires wrapped up, and they're sort of passed through behind the crash bar. It is also attached to the heat shield, and so we're gonna have to remove just the bolts, transfer over the small metal clamp hardware, and we are gonna have to get this little piece off as well, which is connected here. So these are all just, I think, single-use trim bolts. So with that, we're just gonna go ahead and gently loosen up our bolts to the heat shield, which is just 4 bolts across the bottom. Break them, and then we'll just get them out with, where is it? Here it is. Go, and then last one over here. Just a little. All right, with that, we can just go ahead and get them out. I don't know why it's so difficult. Maybe if I just got underneath it. Easy enough. 2. 4. All right. These are just 8mm trim bolts. And then I think what we're going to do is we're just going to gently disconnect most of the wiring to this back. Just really get everything off the unit. All right, those all came off, and then this, I believe, is going to come out when there's a little clip in the back, so we'll get the rest of this off. We're going to transfer these clips over as well. We'll leave these all off to the side, and we'll do a little bit of wire maintenance here. How did they do this? So that one's behind. I think we've got to take it off at this point. It's just these 4 little retainer clips. Once that pops off, this will slide down. And then we can see how this is attached. Maybe it is just pushed down, and here we go. Might actually have to disconnect those in order to pass them through, unless our whole sort of unit goes through, which might not be the case. Disconnect them. There we go. Once that slides away, interesting enough, the bottom one is looped around the top, which connects to our small sensor, and then our top one actually loops around the bottom and is for this little sensor as well. So I think we got everything off here. We just need these metal retaining clips. They just sort of help the 8mm bolts attached to the heat shield. We'll just spend a second getting those off and then be able to install our new one. All right, now that we've transferred over all 4 of our retainer clips for the heat shield, we can go ahead and start reassembling this. I think, given what we saw before, I think we can just orient this into the spot and just clip it in just before reinstalling the wires. It's the middle one. And we can get this lengthy bar installed back in. Perfect. All right, well, in the absence of correct size ones, we're just going to secure it on with some of the old ones and then do a little bit of tape over top, and that way we can at least just sort of get into place. We'll choose the most whole ones that we have, and then we'll just get a couple more as soon as we're able to. Really not great choice here. There's just a couple nubs, but I think between that and just some tape to sort of hold this up, I think there'll be at least 2 here that sort of work. I don't know if either of these nubs will work. No, not really. That one's sort of in. And just for now, until we can get the right because we really just want to get everything fitted back up so we can code. And once we figure out whether or not the coding works with the new REM, we can just wait for the right little retaining clips here. But I don't think that should bother anything, and then we can just wrap this in its normal place. And then, as mentioned, this is the bottom one in an odd way, but let's get that connected in. Perfect. All right, and then we can just get this lined up, and we can plug in our middle one, which is a different size, so if that's any help or indication, but just make sure these are all solidly in. And we can actually just go ahead and kind of put it into the bumper for now, so it's all held in. And then we can just route this, which I think just sort of went in the bottom. I don't even know if it went in the bottom. It might have just sort of come around, and there we go. Well, it's back in for now just so we can test it out. Again, we're just going to have to get a couple of those. This is all in. Feels nice and tight. Everything's rewired right, facing the right way. Perfect. All right. Almost forgot, we do need to put in our little 8mm trim bolts just to hold the bottom on. Nothing too crazy. Again, we're screwing into those thin metal grommets. Nice. All right, that way won't rattle around. Perfect. All right, so what we're actually going to do next is we're just going to loosely lay our loom where it is going to be routed. And this is just going to allow for us to sort of do a test fit, and then we can actually code the car. And so the first sensor's roughly on the corner. The second sensor is a little bit away from where the license plate would be. Your third sensor is about equidistant on the other side of the license plate. And then your last sensor sits at about the corner. We actually gotta just back this up just a little bit. Equidistant. And then that sort of sits out on the corner. So I think what we can do though is sort of get these arranged in a way where we can sort of hang off our sensors. Now obviously, like when we go to calibrate these, we're going to want them to be in their correct position, you know, in the bumper and their retainers. But you know, for now, we can at least hook up the sensors themselves and just get them sort of positioned facing out, so we can at least, you know, see whether or not our wiring, our loom, our power, and our REM is working. So with that, what we're going to go ahead and do is take 4 of our paint matched PDC sensors and just sort of plug them in. And we'll just leave them in here for now. So just get them plugged in. And they can just sort of loosely hang out. All right. And we are going to have to get the taillights back in for this little test, since everything else is connected up. Get the taillights in, and we do have to get our trunk actuator back in. In fact, might even be able to use our original one just to do the test fitting here, because we are obviously upgrading to the rear view camera, but this has the original unit. And we can just sort of plug this in and let it sit here. So let's go ahead and get that plugged in up here. So we got that just plugged back in loosely, just sort of hanging out. All right, so we got our REM plugged in, we've got our taillights plugged in, we have our door actuator, we didn't take off the other taillights. We have our PDC all plugged in. We can sort of twist them around and make them all sort of face the back, so we can at least give ourselves a fighting chance here. Perfect. And as said, I think we've got that all pinned out. So we should be okay to reconnect the battery, and shouldn't get any faults straight away, at least for things not being plugged in. You know, whether or not any errors because of the REM and so forth and so on, we'll find that out in a minute. All right, since we have everything plugged back in, taillights, lock actuator, we got our rear PDC wired, we're going to go ahead and connect the negative battery terminal. We're going to go ahead and put it on a tender as well, just so that when we go to put the car into second position and start to go through our coding, because we do have a new REM as well as the new hardware, we're just going to see if when we code, we just don't want the battery level to drop down too low. So let's go ahead and get this connected back up. We got a 10 mil back here.
For the coating portion of this retrofit, we ended up using ESYS in order to program the rear electronics module to the car. The way that we did this is we went into expert mode, then we clicked into coding, we read the vehicle order FA and then activated the FA. We then read the ECU, in this case the REM, which was showing up as not being seen. And then once we did that, we were able to scroll down and select Detect CAFD from SWE. And once we did that, we just chose a date that was nearest to our build date. We then right-clicked on the REM and hit Code. Next, we'll go into BIMR Utility.
All right, now that we're inside BIMR Utility, we are going to go ahead and go into the FA editor, and we're going to go ahead and add 507, which is just the rear parking distance controls. So let's go ahead and add that, hit save, continue, yes, which is some smart coding. Coding is complete. All right, and now we've got let's go ahead and put this off to the side and put it into reverse. Good news, parking sensors in the back are working. All right, we can continue on with our other upgrades. Let's go ahead and save this. All right, to start the rest of the installation, now that we've been able to code our rear PDC, we're gonna have to undo a little bit in order to move forward. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna professionally zip tie the retrofit cable into place, and then we're going to just use some black silicone to create a little bit of a barrier. I mean, I think the rubber is pretty tight around our loom, and honestly, it's probably overkill, but won't hurt anything, I don't think. So we're going to go ahead and just get this professionally zip tied in place. That way, when we go to add our silicone, it just doesn't move around a whole lot. Orange glove here, but over tightening these so much so that they run around the back. And we still have all of our PDCs hanging, so I think at this point we're just gonna go ahead and do our installation afterwards. We'll just clip the... All right, this should be good enough. We'll just hide that rear one. Not a big deal. All right, now we're gonna get a little bit of our silicone and just apply it sort of in a bead, and we'll just wipe it around. I don't think this is mission critical here. I think, you know, it's pretty well sealed. I mean, candidly, the end of the the outside of this rubber is really just sitting against the car. So I mean, I just don't see how this is a huge difference per se. But you know what? We'll just be a little bit sort of smarter about it. So this is just black silicone to sort of match what we already have going on, but it says it cures in an hour. I mean, I think we're just gonna let it sort of do its thing, and you know, again, we don't need a whole lot here. This isn't like a huge job or anything, and we don't really want to get it anywhere else on the car just because it is a little bit of, you know, adhesive silicone, and that's probably pretty good. All right, and we did clean off our little plastic trim, but just be aware that since we did route this over the factory, I think when we go to put this on in the back, it shouldn't overlap any of the wires and should just fit over everything that we've already done. So we're just going to go ahead and get this lined up for reinstallation. Make sure that the holes line up, and we can just sort of snug it up into place. There's just a couple tabs in here. Just need to make sure that those come over. There we go, from behind. All right, all that's in. everything's lined up. Now it's on the bottom. We can get our little T20s done up top. Perfect. All right, before we move forward, you might remember this debacle with these single-use rivets. We have genuine BMW rivets. I ordered a bunch of them because I honestly thought it was ridiculous that, you know, a couple of these sort of popping, breaking, single-use would require stopping for a little bit. So I ended up with a bunch of them. I feel like BMW reuses some of this stuff over and over and over. So odd that it wasn't in our sort of universal trim piece kit, but live and learn. So we have got, looks like 10 and 10, bags of 10. All right, thanks BMW. We'll leave all that together. We also got some other rivets just because we were going up there. So with that, let's get, I think we need 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. Of course, BMW uses the cheapest plastic in order to sort of keep these in the bag, so these will be all over the place in no time. 6. All right, and 7. And with that, actually, if we have a trim removal tool, what we might do is just leave that next to us so that we can sort of take one out and put one in. And actually, it doesn't really matter. This is, well, I think we'll be able to get those out with just our own hands. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to jump up. Perfect. Who would have thought? All right. With that, I think we can actually go ahead and build up our rear bumper since we did get the Keys Motorsports kit. There are still a few more pieces to put on, including the reflectors, the M Performance trim down below, as well as get the PDC retaining clips in the right spot. So let's go ahead and go over and build up our bumper so we can bring it over and install in the car. All right, we just unwrapped our newly painted Keys M Sport Retrofit bumper. As you can see, this one came with the PDC, which we didn't have on the original car. You can see it next to the 10-year-old paint. It looks pretty good in terms of the match. Very happy with the paint job from Extreme Auto here. They did a great job getting this together. So what we are going to do, though, is we are going to build up the bumper. Since this is a brand new bumper, it's never had the PDC mounts. It's also never had the rear diffuser on either. So we are going to push all of those things on, as well as install the reflectors into the bumper. But we're actually going to go ahead and do a little bit of cleaning back here. Since this has been sort of in a bag and being prepped for paint. So what we'll actually do is we're going to take some rubbing alcohol and give it a little bit of a clean so that we know that the adhesives that were provided will stick to the bumper. And then we're actually going to do a test fit with our PDC sensors just to make sure that everything lines up before we ultimately put the adhesive to the bumper. They are just little pieces of plastic with a glorified sticker on the back. So what we're going to do is actually just to do our test fit, apply the stickers. I just want to make sure that the PDC sensor wiring doesn't interfere. So since these are all vertically faced on the bumper, the lines will just come down and into their respective sensor. I just want to orient the PDC clips so that the wire doesn't interfere. And since we do have 4 in the back here, 2 in the middle on the trunk, this is where the trunk lid will actually sit. This is where the diffuser sits. So we know that the wiring will have to come down here respectively. So once we get these cleaned off, we can go ahead and test fit our PDC sensors in their little houses. All right, these are actually numbered from Keys. They do have numbers 1,
2, 3, 4, L1, L2, right, R3, R4. I'm reading this as this is the left side of the bumper, so L1 goes here, L2 goes here, R3 goes here, and R4 goes there. Since I'm obviously facing that in the opposite direction, they all look the same. I don't think there's any difference. We have our double-sided adhesive stickers, and the bumper's pretty stable in this, but I think we'll do the middle ones first. We did sort of wipe down the surface of these to get a good stick. I think, you know, we can always get new stickers and re-stick them. I don't think this part of the process is terribly scientific, but we'll just double check. So we got left 1, left 2, oops, right 3, and right 4. And we are going to orient them so that the side tabs are this way. That way when the wiring comes down and sits in the sensor, that we are actually able to have the sensor pointing up like this. I test fit this once, it seems fine. I think what I can do then is just push the sensor in, we'll get it to fit, and then that way we can know if we're putting it in the right place, and then go ahead and I'll put our sticker on, because it seems like the sticker actually, if we take a look at it, seems that it gives a little bit of space. You can sort of see that. There's a little bit of edge around it, so you know when that goes onto the car, there's a little bit of edge. You know, the sensor obviously lines up with the hole and pushes through, so as long as everything is aligned, I think what we actually will do is go ahead and put the sensors in. I think what we'll do is apply the sticker here. That does seem to be the way that they want you to do it. I think the more that I mess with it, the longer term worse it's going to be. It's a very sensitive sticker, so. That was oddly annoying. I mean, these don't have a lot of, there's not really much to them, but I don't know why I thought sticking them to the sensor first would be a good idea. Well, other than that one bump over here, I think here we go, pretty smooth. All right, we got right 3, right hand side, third one. All right, and we're in. All right, that's pretty good. Nice. All right, last one. See, it's not our prettiest work, but what it is on there. And then we can get our last sensor in here. All that for stickers.
now that they're all installed, we can actually go ahead and build in the M Sport diffuser. We ended up with an OEM one because I felt like this was a component that folks were going to see. It was hard to really tell with the matte black one that Keys sent that it would be much different, but we spent the money. All right, we're going to install it this way. I think it's going to be a little bit easier, and that way we can just push up and in on our tabs and just make sure that they set appropriately. So it is angled a little bit here. I think we just sort of like lift this up. There we go. All right, let's get her up next to the car and see how she looks. We are attempting to install the bumper. We're going to go ahead and get the PDC sensor clips in, and then we'll continue to go around and push the bumper into its appropriate housing. Ooh. All right, those are all in. You can sort of get it up. This is all aligned over here.
Yeah.
Let me grab, if you just hold that
I'm
for
just
a second.
holding where it's locked.
You're too good for your home?
Yeah, well, there you go.
What is a 25-minute job took like 4 hours because you just broke something, so.
All right, well, we got the bumper fitted up and did need some assistance getting that on just to get some of the tabs, but the gaps look great. Was able to align it, make sure that it all fit on both sides, and then we're going to do a bit of reinstallation, and we're going to put the taillights back in, plug them in, get them situated, that way they're just not hanging out where they could get a little bit more damage, and then we're going to go ahead and get all the trim bolts on the bumper as well before we start tackling the rear view camera. Strip rail back on here, pretty good fitment. Rails on. That's the taillights back installed. Down a little bit.
Well, after looking up through the wheel arch, I noticed that one of the sort of plastic pieces on the inside of the bumper that's meant to align our wheel arch liner was bumping up against to our plastic mounting bracket, as well as the one that keeps like the shape of the bumper. So once we got that, now these are going in much easier. So should be good. All right, that is the rear bumper trim back on. Thanks for watching part 2 of this retrofit. Next, we're going to install the rear view camera in part 3. Stay tuned for more episodes of the BMW F30 from Chapel Hill series. Thanks for watching.